Hi, everyone. I'm Frank Stanisci of Candid Frank Live. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Candid Frank Live, joining me as usual is Aaron William Freeland. Hey, Aaron, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Frank?
That felt like deja vu
All over again.
all over again. Deja vu all over again. How you doing?
Been doing very well. How about yourself?
Not bad. Just you know, uh, watching this business with the war, which we can get to later. Let's get to the fun part first. Um, but I guess the biggest thing to suggest right now is Austin Matthews' stock can only be defined in one way right now. It's rising rapidly in a hurry. He's in the Toronto Maple Leaf record books. Now, we must qualify this that I hate saying this because Leaf fans are going to be all over me. The Leafs over the past 50 years haven't had that many great players in that wore Leaf jerseys. Yes, I will go with Daryl Sittler. I will go with Salming. I will go with of course, Gilmore, um, Rick Vive. You see, you start talking about guys that were great players for a time, but they aren't the kind of great players that bring the Stanley Cup to the team. So what I'm saying is, absolutely, Matthews is probably the best Maple Leaf of the past 50 years. He probably and now we're talking about a kid who's 24. All right, that's the other thing I want to make sure we understand here. He's done so much in the first few years of being a Maple Leaf. I think that's the most amazing thing. It's that arc that, players when they're drafted, they're 18, they show up. Usually takes them a little while to establish themselves as star players.
Now, Matthews' rise has been nothing short of meteoric when it comes to the Leafs. I think about the only Maple Leaf in recent memory that could potentially come close to touching what he's done so far would be Matt Sundin. And again, the issue with naming Matt Sundin is he as well never had the opportunity to actually win a cup. I mean, the closest the Leafs ever got was with Doug Gilmore, and that's and even then, comparing Matthews to Doug Gilmore is a bit of a stretch. Just based on the magnitude of what Matthews has done so far versus what Gilmore brought to the table. So
Yeah, and the thing that Matthews may do, has been able to do, that no other Leaf has done, aside from the fact that he was drafted by the Maple Leafs, because the two players that you just mentioned came to the Leafs after being elsewhere for a while. We've watched Matthews from day one. He's been, a Leaf for all his career thus far. And the only reason I mention this is because Sundin was a great player in Quebec when he came to Toronto. So his career in Toronto started on a nice high because of the experience he had, right, Aaron? So he looked great. But here's the difference. And Gilmore, obviously, the same thing, even longer elsewhere than he was in Toronto. He was here for a short time, in fact. The other thing is, of the three whom we're discussing, and folks, you can disagree on we can throw Sittler in there too. All the other Leafs have been in the top 10. They have been one of the best players in the league when you take a snapshot of us at a certain point in time, right? Whereas what we're looking at here with with Austin Matthews is, this is a guy who could end up winning 3 trophies. That's something no Leaf has done. He won Rookie of the Year, and you know how long it was before him that the Leafs had a Rookie of the Year? His name's Britt Selby. And do
it,
any of you know who he is?
it's been a while. Let's put it that way. It's been a while.
So, he's done things wearing a Leaf jersey that no other Leaf has done since that era. And even, Aaron, take it from somebody who was around then, even in the era when the Leafs were winning all those Stanley Cups, right? They were never a dominant team. They were a dominant team in the playoffs. They were a team that struggled in the regular season at times, and other times they were cooled and chilled out in second, sometimes third, and then they even had some runs at the end of the year to come in fourth and then win the cup. So, this is not something that anybody who's been around the Maple Leafs for a very long time, who can remember. So we'd be talking about 80-year-olds with and 90-year-olds right now that they won't remember. Yeah, you have to go really far back to the 40s and the 50s to think of a Leaf player that dominated the league that he's in, the National Hockey League.
Now, this is Matthews is we like to bandy about the term generational talent, and you've heard it used to describe several players in the past 5 to 10 years. Well, if you're looking at the past 5 to 10 years, that's an awful lot of generational talents that you're looking at here. But when you compare Matthews to other people that have had that label applied to them, like Tavares and McDavid and Gretzky and Crosby and Mario Lemieux, he definitely stands out as one of those true generational talents, as opposed to one of those he's really, really good labels. And that's something
And
people need to bear in mind here.
yeah, and what you're talking about is Kenny Ware, the first overall pick, right? That's the other thing. This kid was drafted first overall. If that isn't an albatross around a player's leg, I don't know what is. So that's what makes him, I think, and the respect I have for him as a player has grown as, people like to say his 200-foot game. Well, it's true. He's had the kind of attitude towards his game that I hoped he had, and that was the criticism I had of him, was that he was, one trick pony, right? He was a goal scorer, but he did not understand the imperative nature of defense. The other thing that he's learned, and I know you and I both agree on this, and that is that I think he's really locked into the idea that from good defense come great opportunities.
No, and there's something to be said for that defensive turnover that you get that leads to a chance heading the opposite way. And I think Matthews, more than anybody else out there, is aware of exactly how that works. When you have puck moving defensemen like Riley and like Brody, the ability for them to spring him gives him that opportunity. So he's well aware of how important that sort of thing can be and how lucky he is to have players like that on his team. So that helps contribute to what he's doing overall.
And I would like to also offer this question and comment from you. This is the question I have. Do you think people are emphasizing too much that lines 2, 3, and 4 don't score enough, when instead what they should be asking is those three lines need to be on the positive side of the plus minus, if you understand what I'm alluding to?
No, I certainly agree with that. There has to be, not necessarily that they're not scoring enough, but there just needs to be a slightly better balance between what's going on with lines 1A and 1B and lines 2 and 3 for that matter.
Yeah. The point being, all right, it's real simple. If those other lines, if lines 2, 3, and 4, and I'm going to call them different. I'm sorry that I get the discussion of the first two lines are they both first lines? I'm going to go on the premise that the first line is the first line, and the Tavares line is the number 2 line. The idea, folks, is real simple: is that they've got to make sure that they end up very close to even on the ice. Goals. Never mind scoring chances. Never mind this. Never mind that. When all is tallied, when that line goes out, they have to go out with the purpose of not losing the game. That's what they have to do, because they've got 3 guys in the top line that are going to win you the game if you don't lose it for them. That's my point. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was goaltending. I'm really getting fed up with this typical Maple Leaf fan base, people surrounding the Maple Leafs, that soon as goals start to go in, it's the goalie's fault. They just go right to it. It's the goalie's fault. That it's only the goalie's fault. He's the guy that's supposed to keep the puck out of the net. And the last game was another example of the problem. You've got a defenseman who they paid a lot of money, Morgan Riley, a guy they pay a lot of money, who's on a 2-on-1 and doesn't take either player out of the play. And he's in between the both of them. All he has to do, if he wants to, if we're gonna harass Mrazek and Campbell, what he has to do is has to give the goaltender a chance to make the save. If the goaltender doesn't know which one of them is going to shoot the puck, you're a goaltender. What chance does he have? These are big league shooters, right? You give a guy a 4 foot by 1 foot opening, he's going to hit it, right? 9 times out of 10. So when Riley didn't take the pass away, he basically that goal wasn't Campbell's fault at all. And the other thing, the stat that now people are starting to talk about, and then is the fact that the Leafs sit, what is it, third or fourth overall in blocking shots.
Yep.
But I bet you they're first overall in tipping the puck into their own net.
I'd hate to look at the number of own goals that the Leafs have scored thanks to players getting their sticks into the lane, as opposed to letting their goalie see the puck. But you may not necessarily be wrong on that, Frank.
But that's the problem that I have, Aaron, is that maybe I'm too compassionate for goaltenders. Maybe I have a soft spot for goaltenders. Or maybe my eyes aren't lying to me, and I'm seeing defensemen incompetence, from the defensive position. Now, having said that, when I say incompetence by the defensive position of the Maple Leafs, I keep going further outside the net. I don't stop at the defenseman, because at the end of the day, watch a hockey game, folks. Watch what the Leafs have to go through to put the puck in the net on the other side. It's not just their inability to have a high shooting percentage. It's because they're taking shots from very far away and have to really get a great shot off to score a goal. We've seen Matthews do that a lot, right? Whereas what you have with them is they make sure that the Leafs don't get a simple shot. Sticks, bodies, contact, all that stuff. I guess what I'm saying is, and this sounds terrible, I'm saying that if Matthews and company were playing against the Leafs, he'd have twice as many goals. That's my point. Simple as that.
No, and it's a fair assessment, Frank.
And it's not just the defenseman either. I want to make that clear.
No, I mean, defense is a team responsibility in the same way that offense is a team responsibility. If you have a team that's not particularly good at one but good at the other, you end up with a lot of track meets. You end up with a lot of 6-4 games. You end up with a lot of 7-6 games, 7-5 games, and it's not sustainable. This team as a whole needs to be better on defense than it currently is.
Yeah, it's as a whole. It's not just the goaltenders. And here's the thing too. Just a simple math, folks. This is simple math. Just to express the point, and then Aaron, you can have the rest of the time on this subject. If you have 3 forwards in your zone and they're all within 9, 10, 12 feet of the net, you have 2 defensemen. What does the math tell you? There's a third guy that's free. And how many goals have we seen that third guy has had a free shot? That's because, folks, one of the forwards who's responsible for that third guy isn't there to interfere with him having an easy shot. So, dump on Campbell all you want, dump on Mrazek all you want. I'm telling you that I think the rest of you are full of crap. If the way you're crapping on Campbell and Mrazek isn't fair.
No, there's a burden of responsibility that goes around here, and some friends of mine like to use the analogy that the goaltender is basically the condom. It's the last line of defense. You don't want to necessarily have to rely on it because it's not 100% effective, right? Your forwards have to be there. Your defensemen have to be there. And the goaltender should be the last resort.
Yep. And you can't let anybody poke a hole in that condom.
No.
Would that be like the 5-hole? Maybe? No.
In the case of Montreal, it's a 10.5 hole.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the rest of the Canadian teams. And I'm really liking a lot the fact that the Montreal Canadiens are playing real well. But they haven't really, they haven't really burnt up the place, but they played some great hockey. And they traded Toffoli away. So they're doing pretty good without a guy who was a key contributor all last season.
You know what? The Montreal Canadiens have been actually very successful despite their best efforts. I think is the best way to put it.
You're totally right about that.
It's it's one of those things where this is a team that was expecting good things. Everything turned on them, and it wasn't working out the way that they had hoped. They decided to start to divest themselves of some pieces in the hopes of making themselves better, and it's turned things around. The unfortunate thing is, I don't know if they can actually make any hay out of this.
Not this year.
No, obviously not this year. They're still riding the St. Louis bump, which is awesome, but there's far too many holes on the back end for them to actually carry this through. I am glad to see that they're enjoying some success, though.
This isn't the team that they built.
No.
Once you don't have your number one goalie, that's then it becomes a bit of an issue. In Ottawa, you've witnessed it. You've switched the channel and watched the games that Ottawa plays. They played very well. How do you like this kid Stützle, who helped lead his team to a victory over a pretty good team in St. Louis?
It's a lot of fun to watch Tim Stützle play. He's fast. He's got a great set of hands on him. Sometimes he overskates himself. I don't know if you've ever been aware of that, but he sometimes his feet move a little too fast for the rest of him. But him and Josh Norris each had power play goals on Tuesday, and Brady Tkachuk and Alex Formanton also chipped in. The good news is, on the other side, Anton Forsberg stopped 20 of 21 shots, which was good for them because they actually finally managed to snap a 5-game losing skid. So glad that they actually managed to get that done. Glad that they actually managed to get themselves back on the positive side. But it wasn't necessarily one of those pretty wins, but it was one of those effective wins.
Yeah, and the goaltending this year was one of the main things, one of the demons that they needed to slay, and they've been unable to slay it. But now you get a goalie who can play well. He's had problems with the consistency, but give it to him. He hasn't been in the league long, needs some time to adjust, and they've got a couple of goaltenders like that. They're going to make some interesting decisions in the offseason. Paul Stastny scores twice, and the Jets beat Tampa Bay 7-4. Woo.
Yeah, this was one of those surprise victories. And Tampa Bay is actually starting to suffer from one of those issues that the Maple Leafs suffer from on a consistent basis, and that's starting on time.
Yeah.
So in this particular case here, the Lightning unfortunately suffered a bit of a swoon in the first part of the first period, and that's when really the majority of the damage was done. Now they did try to make a comeback scoring a couple goals about a minute and 24 apart. But, that was right at the tail end of the first period. And psychologically, the damage had already been done by the Jets at that point. So,
yeah. And
even though they were tied, they're still playing catch up.
Yeah. And, when a team gets the opportunity to play against a really good team, it's not that you find out how good they are. You find out how ready the good team is to play, right? More often than not. I'm not saying every time. And you also end up with that additional motivation if you're Winnipeg, and you're not having a really good year. And you finally play well enough, and then you develop a little bit of confidence and you have a really good game. And if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan, what you're hoping is, they've captured lightning in a bottle that they can replicate. The problem is, it's what are they going to do the next game? Because every fan's frustration, it doesn't matter what team you root for, is when you see your team play really well against a great team like that, and then they play a team that either is beneath them or one that they should beat or can beat, and they don't.
Yeah, and this is the trap game phenomenon that we reference so often, Frank. It's you do well against the better teams, and then when it comes to the not necessarily as good teams in the league, that's when teams tend to falter. And it's a common psychological and mental trap that a lot of people and a lot of teams fall into. It's we don't have to work as hard because they're not as good. But what they fail to realize is the team that's underneath them in the standings is working harder because, hey, they're on top of us. We want to try to catch them. Let's go.
Yeah. The whole key is that if I can do a mathematical thing here, if you can play 50-50 against the really good teams, in other words, you share points with the really, really good teams. The reason you play 600, 650 hockey is because you're beating the teams that are equal to you or lesser than you way more often because it's harder to beat the good teams, the really good teams. And as we said, and as we both, I figure we agree from what I said, which is it's a waste of time when you beat the good teams and lose to bad teams.
Yeah.
You might as well not beat the good teams. That's the issue. So it's a pyramid. The bottom, you got to beat all the teams that you should be able to beat, and at the top, you should have your share of victories against the really good teams. Edmonton, to conclude this little topic, is another team that needs to do it just like Winnipeg. Toffoli scores twice. He leads Calgary 3-1 over Edmonton. Calgary has played incredibly well. They have been, in my opinion, Aaron, I think they've been the best team since the calendar turned over to 2022.
Yeah, although Calgary has been one of those really pleasant surprises, and I think part of what actually really helps them do as well as they've done is the addition of Toffoli. Not to overstate his importance to them, but since the Habs have given him up, the Flames have played excellent hockey. They've played basically playoff hockey as they should be doing. And again, this is one of those subtle things that we've talked about before, Frank. But
Absolutely.
it's definitely showing through. So glad for them.
Yep. Vancouver might be, it sounds like they're making noises about starting over again. And some of the key players they have now may end up going in for a trade.
Well, if the Leafs manage to pick up Demko out of all of this, I'm not exactly going to be too
Oh,
disappointed.
oh,
Now, Vancouver isn't
man.
at the fire sale stage yet. There
Man.
have been some issues. They have released coaches. They have, changed some of their front office here. So there is some work that needs to be done to catch them up again. But I'm not at this point losing too much sleep over that. I'm sure they'll get where they need to go eventually. It's just not going to happen this year.
Yeah. Leaf fans just had a wet dream thanks to you. They just peed themselves thinking
Hey,
about Demko being, my God. Imagine that if he was on that team. Oh, considering
Demko,
he's
Mrazek, and Campbell. Oh,
Hey, Phil Kessel. Wow, I like what he did. Wasn't that one? I just love what he did there because that was a fantastic compromise where he didn't throw himself at the mercy of having a child. He decided to do what's important to him in his life and his career and be there for a beautiful compromise. I really admire that compromise.
no, I'm actually really glad the Coyotes did this for him. They actually set up a private charter for him. He came out, played one shift, got a shot on goal, got fist bumps from his teammates, and then went home for the birth of his child. So that's absolutely fantastic. Arizona is helping him keep his Ironman streak intact. I don't think he's missed a game since coming back off of shoulder surgery, and that
A
is
long
going
time
on
ago.
9 years now.
Yeah.
So congratulations to him for that.
And
Um,
congratulations to the team for doing something classy like that.
Yes. And congratulations to the Kessel family on the birth of their child. But again, his 956 consecutive NHL games is intact. He's almost there to Doug Jarvis's second place spot at 964
Wow.
games. The last person to surpass is we're looking at 977 games. So that would be Keith Yandel that he's currently chasing.
One of the worst trades that the Leafs ever made, Jarvis.
Even with salary retained, it was just one of those why.
It is one of those things. All right, we've got a Russell Wilson trade. He goes to the Denver Broncos from Seattle. What? And
Yeah,
he joins the AFC where there's a lot of really good. That's going to be an incredible. We talked about this. This is going to be an incredible, AFC quarterback battle everywhere.
oh, this is going to be absolutely fantastic. I mean, you add in the fact that he's going there, and Rodgers has signed apparently a 4-year contract with Green Bay. So this is absolutely fantastic. It's going to reintroduce and inspire a new level of interest in everything that we've got going on here. So
Wow, amazing.
yeah,
That trade caught me by surprise. Thanks, Aaron.
appreciate that, Frank.
For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, airing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news and entertainment, join us at spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody.